A single sentence can be enough to tilt the heart for an entire day. The one who speaks says it and forgets, already moving on, already living in the next moment. But we, somehow, become careful collectors of what was never meant to be kept. We carry the sentence home as though it were an object of value, though it is only air shaped by the mouth. We wrap it like a shard of glass in cloth, not to throw it away, but to preserve it. We set it gently inside the mind, as if placing it on an altar. Then we return to it again and again, turning it in the light, pressing it against our feelings, testing how much it hurts, until something that was only sound becomes weight. It is not the sentence itself that is heavy. It is the way we hold it. Peace rarely disappears because of a great storm. More often, it is lost to the smallest gusts. A glance that feels dismissive, a remark said with a laugh that doesn't reach the eyes, a passing comment that lands mysteriously, precisely, on the tenderest place in us. The wind passes quickly, yet we remain standing in it, letting it blow straight through the chest, as if the heart were a door we forgot to close. There is something quietly tragic about this. We can endure real difficulties with surprising strength. Work, responsibility, exhaustion, the long ache of trying. Yet a single sentence can undo a day's worth of steadiness. The body keeps moving. The hands keep doing what they must. The face continues to perform composure. But inside, something leans. The mind tilts toward that sentence like a tree toward a persistent wind, and the rest of the day becomes a subtle labor, trying to straighten ourselves again without anyone noticing the bend. We call it being sensitive. We call it overthinking. We call it taking things personally. But underneath these names is a deeper reality. We are living without a stable place to stand. We are building our inner climate out of other people's weather. And no matter how kind the day begins, one gust is enough to change everything. Bodhidharma pointed to something simple and unsparing. Suffering is not in the circumstance, but in the mind that settles on the circumstance. The world is full of sounds, looks, judgments, approvals, dismissals. These rise and fall like weather. What binds us is not that weather, but our tendency to build a home inside it. When the mind clings, praise becomes a reward, and criticism becomes a verdict. We no longer live for what we believe is right. We live in reaction to what others say. Without realizing it, we hand our inner life over to outsiders, as though our peace were a possession that can be granted or revoked by a stranger's mouth. And this happens not only in dramatic moments, but in ordinary ones, the kind that pass unnoticed by everyone else. There are days when we live decently, work honestly, and keep our conduct upright. Yet one unfriendly glance, one half-joking remark, and suddenly the heart sinks. Doubt appears like a cold draft under the door. Am I wrong? Am I lacking? Do I deserve to be seen that way? No one is actually imprisoning us, but we bind ourselves with thought. the most exhausting thing is not doing too much. It is thinking too much about what others think of us. The mind becomes a courtroom that never adjourns, a place where we prosecute ourselves with evidence we don't even trust, where every facial expression becomes a witness, every silence becomes a clue, every tone becomes an accusation, a single eyebrow becomes testimony, a delayed reply becomes a sentence, an absent invitation becomes proof. We gather fragments and build a story, then punish ourselves with it. And because the story is built from uncertainty, it cannot be finished. The mind keeps reopening the case, searching for the one detail that will finally make it feel safe. And so we live as if under inspection. We monitor our words before we speak them, our actions before we take them, our feelings before we allow ourselves to feel them. We begin to live two lives at once, the life we actually live and the imagined life we believe others are watching. The more we try to protect ourselves from being misjudged, the more fragile we become. A life built around avoiding judgment becomes a life held hostage by it. This is how the smallest comment becomes a lever on the whole day, because it touches the place where we secretly ask to be approved. Even when we tell ourselves we don't care, the body reveals the truth. The stomach tightens, the shoulders rise, the breath grows shallow. Something in us prepares for battle or escape, not always against the person who spoke, but against the possibility that what they said might be true. Yet truth is rarely so simple. A person's words can be a mirror, but it can also be smoke. It can be insight, but it can also be mood. It can be clarity, but it can also be projection. The tragedy is that when we are hungry for validation, we stop distinguishing between medicine and poison. We swallow everything and call it feedback. Then we wonder why our inner strength becomes thin. When the mind runs outward in search of validation, it never truly rests, because the outside world is always changing. Today, people praise you. Tomorrow, they may criticize you. Today, they are close. Tomorrow, they are distant. Today, they admire your restraint. Tomorrow, they call it weakness. If your heart rises and falls with those shifts, it is like steering a small boat into a violent current, trying to balance on water that will never stop moving. No matter how skilled you are, the river will always be stronger than your arms. This is why the mind grows tired. Not because people speak, but because we keep opening the door. Not because opinions exist, but because we treat them like law. Not because the world is unstable, but because we keep expecting stability from the unstable. We ask the wind to be gentle, and then we blame the wind for doing what wind does. And yet the solution is not to become cold. It is not to retreat into numbness. It is not to harden the heart into stone. Learning to let it be is not coldness, and it is not surrender. In the spirit of meditation, letting be means seeing clearly without taking residence. You hear what is said, you see what is shown, but you do not invite it to stay too long in the heart. You do not lift others' opinions too high, and you do not press yourself too low. You let praise pass through you without turning it into identity. You let blame pass through you without turning it into a sentence. This is a subtle discipline because it asks for a strength that is quiet rather than dramatic. It does not ask you to win an argument, but to refuse an unnecessary war. It does not ask you to prove yourself, but to stop living as though your worth is always on trial. It does not ask you to erase feeling, but to stop building monuments to passing emotion. The mind is like a cup of water. If you keep shaking it with every word and every look, it will never become clear. Even clean water looks muddy when it is constantly disturbed. But if you know how to stop, how to set the cup down, the sediment settles on its own. There is no need to fight, no need to chase anything away. Just stop. Let stillness do what force cannot. This is the quiet power many people miss. Clarity is often not something we create, but something we allow. We do not win calmness. We make room for it. We stop feeding the turbulence. We stop stirring what is already trying to settle. In a quiet sitting, we are not trying to silence the world's mouth. We are learning how not to be dragged by it. We look gently at why praise and blame feel so heavy, why we so easily compete inside words, why the need to be understood can make the heart so tired. If you feel weighed down by gossip, saddened by a sentence, worn out from explaining yourself, stay here. You do not have to understand everything at once. Just listen a little more slowly. Sometimes slowing down is enough to keep us from being swept away. So begin with something basic. Why can a single compliment or insult dominate our inner weather? The wind itself does not cause suffering. Only the mind standing in the wrong place becomes weary. Most of our fatigue does not come from what others say, but from where we place ourselves as we listen. A remark has no real heaviness on its own. It is only sound. It gains weight when we stand too close, when we receive it as judgment. Not because words are powerful, but because the mind is tender at precisely that point. And the tender points are not random. A sentence stings where an old fear lives. A look burns where an old wound still opens. A casual remark becomes unbearable where the soul already doubts itself. The world does not always invent our pain. Often, it only touches what is already there. This is why two people can hear the same comment and walk away with entirely different lives. One forgets in 10 seconds. The other carries it for 10 years. The difference is not in the sound. The difference is in what the sound meets inside us. Bodhidharma taught, when the mind does not cling, circumstances cannot bind. Yet humans cling so easily, clinging to praise to feel worthy, clinging to blame to feel rejected, clinging to others' eyes to decide who we are. And it is this clinging that exhausts us. Many people believe they suffer because others are troublesome, but if someone speaks and we do not keep it, the matter ends right there. The truth is that we carry the sentence home. We set it on the table. We stare at it during meals. We turn it over before sleep. We recall it the next morning. Others plant a seed once. We water it every day, then wonder why the tree of suffering grows so quickly. Some words are so small that if we heard them and let them go, we would forget them within minutes. But we ask, what did they mean? Were they looking down on me? Am I truly inadequate? And the words begin to swell, not because of the speaker, but because we keep feeding them energy. We supply the imagination. We provide the soundtrack. We recreate the scene again and again, polishing it into a complete film, until the mind is no longer living today. It is living inside a replay. Zen has a simple principle. What you nourish will grow. We nourish hurt by replaying it. We nourish resentment by rebuilding the scene. We nourish anxiety by adding imagined details. And then we say, I'm suffering. Yet we rarely ask, what am I nourishing in my heart? We rarely notice how often we return to the wound, not to heal it, but to confirm it, to make it real, to let it define us. There is a subtle seduction in rumination. It feels like control. The mind believes that if it thinks hard enough, long enough, it will prevent future pain. It believes that replaying the past is a form of protection, but the protection becomes the prison. The mind keeps stepping into the fire to study the flame, and then wonders why it keeps getting burned. And here is a quiet truth that can change everything. Rumination is not wisdom. It is attachment dressed as analysis. Wisdom makes you lighter. Rumination makes you tighter. Wisdom leaves a clear lesson and then exits. Rumination circles the same room, looking for a door that was never there. So training the mind is not training ourselves to forget everything. It is training ourselves not to repeat. When a sentence stings, the first step is not analysis and not defense, but recognition. My mind is being pulled. Simply recognizing that pull reduces its force. It creates a small gap, just enough space for you to remain a person rather than a reaction. That gap is precious. It is where dignity lives. It is where choice is born. Without it, we are only reflex. With it, we are free enough to respond rather than react. And if you ask, I understand this, but I still feel sad, what then? Sadness is not a fault. Sadness is natural. What makes us suffer is not sadness, but staying too long with it, pitching a tent inside it and calling it home. Sadness is only a visitor. When it comes, we know it. When it leaves, we let it leave. Do not invite it to stay. Do not entertain it with endless stories. Do not feed it with rehearsals of what should have been said. Bodhidharma taught, when the mind does not cling anywhere, it becomes free. Freedom is not the absence of seeing or hearing. Freedom is hearing without being dragged, seeing without sticking. Then we do not need the world to become quiet for us to be calm. We only need the mind to stop chasing. There is another subtle chain that keeps many hearts restless. The need to be understood. It sounds reasonable. Who doesn't want to be understood? The problem is not the wish itself, but placing our peace inside the outcome. When others understand us, we feel light. When they don't, we feel wronged and tense. The mind then enters a loop. Explain, hope, disappoint, explain again. until exhaustion becomes a habit. The deeper trap is that this loop often masquerades as sincerity. We call it clearing things up when it is really a hunger for reassurance. We call it being fair when it is really a fear of being misjudged. We call it communication when it is really the ego trying to restore its image. And the more we try to secure an image, the more insecure we become, because image is, by nature, unstable. It can be altered by one rumor, one mood, one misunderstanding. It is never truly yours. Bodhidharma's point is simple. Wherever the mind seeks a foothold outside itself, it is not yet free. When we need others' understanding to feel okay, we have moved our standing place outward. But others shift. Their lenses are shaped by their past, their fears, their expectations. The same action looks noble to one person and suspicious to another. We cannot control the lens, yet we keep trying to polish it with endless explanation. In Zen, the practice in Ginti's, do what is right, then let conditions be. If understanding comes, it comes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Not because we don't care, but because we refuse to trade our inner steadiness for something we cannot hold. We speak when needed and stop when enough. We clarify facts, not rescue wounded feelings. When we speak to rescue feelings, we will never finish speaking. When we speak to clarify, one clean sentence is enough. A simple practice. Whenever you feel the urge to explain, ask yourself, am I speaking to clarify or speaking to be understood? If it is to clarify, be brief and stop. If it is to be understood, slow down and breathe. What you need in that moment may be comfort, not more words. Often the heart is asking for rest, but the mouth tries to provide proof. And then there is the quiet discipline of 3 breaths. A small latch that can keep an entire life from swinging open into regret. First breath, recognize the pull. Second breath, allow the feeling to be present. Third breath, return the choice to yourself. 3 breaths do not erase the problem, but they prevent it from producing new karma. The most frightening thing is not what happens, but what our hurried reaction creates next. A harsh sentence can become a chain of insults. A shaky decision can become a long regret. 3 breaths cut the chain at the beginning. They reclaim a sacred interval between stimulus and response, the interval where dignity lives. Another practice is just as crucial. Don't chew a sentence again and again. That is how we hurt ourselves a second time. Others spoke once. We replay it 10 times. Each replay revives the same heat in the body, the same tightening in the stomach, the same burning in the head. The event is not new. Only our reliving is. When the replay begins, return to the body. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel the breath moving in and out. The body lives in the present. Rumination lives in the past. At first, the mind will run back quickly. That's fine. Gently bring it back again and again. What is not nourished weakens. The mind learns slowly that it does not have to live inside old scenes to be safe. Not every pain needs analysis. Some pain only needs to be passed through, like rain. If you stand in the rain asking why it rains, you will be soaked for a long time. If you step under shelter, the rain can continue without drowning you. Shelter is not denial. Shelter is wisdom, knowing what does not deserve your full exposure. Finally, learn to sort words as you would sort medicine. Right illness, take it. Wrong illness, set it down. True feedback points to the action, carries evidence, and aims at improvement. Many other words are only the speaker's irritation wearing the mask of advice. Swallowing everything does not make us humble. It makes us tired. This is not arrogance. It is discernment. It is refusing to turn your mind into a marketplace where every passerby can leave a stone in your hands. It is understanding that some opinions are not meant for you, not because you are above them, but because they do not serve your growth. A mind that ingests everything becomes poisoned by noise. A mind that chooses carefully becomes clear enough to see. And discernment includes another quiet wisdom. Not every battle deserves your breath. Not every misunderstanding deserves your explanation. Not every judgment deserves your reply. Some things are best met with silence. Not the silence of fear, but the silence of inner economy. A refusal to spend your life on what cannot be corrected in a single conversation. When the mind has roots in conscience, in consistent action, in what you refuse to trade away, the world's mouth loses its force. People may still talk, the wind may still blow, but you no longer stand in the wrong place. You stop measuring yourself with a crooked ruler. You stop letting shifting faces define your center. And then something gentle happens. You begin to live a little lighter. Not because life becomes quieter, but because you stop carrying everything back into the heart. You keep what matters: integrity, kindness, clear boundaries, and you return the rest to where it belongs, outside. You learn that you can respect others without surrendering yourself to them. You can listen without absorbing. You can accept correction without collapsing. You can be misunderstood without becoming lost. This is maturity of the spirit, not the ability to control the world, but the ability to remain yourself inside it. Not the absence of pain, but the refusal to make pain your residence. Not the disappearance of wind, but the discovery of an inner posture that wind cannot break. Day by day, you don't need to be better than anyone. You only need to hurt yourself a little less than yesterday. If today you are not at peace, it's all right. Just don't abandon yourself. Return to a breath. Return to the body. Return to the place within that does not need the world to agree in order to be steady. Because the true turning point is not when people stop speaking or when the world finally becomes gentle. The turning point is when you stop treating every sentence as a verdict, when you stop building your self-worth out of someone else's mood, when you stop standing with your whole heart leaned toward approval and begin slowly to stand upright inside your own life. And if you have spent years standing in the wrong place, leaning toward praise, bracing against blame, trying to earn safety through being understood, Be patient with yourself. Habits of the heart do not dissolve in a day, but every time you notice the pull and do not follow, something changes. Every time you set the cup down, clarity returns. Every time you let a sentence pass without building a home for it, you reclaim a small piece of freedom. Over time, those small pieces add up, and one day you may realize, quietly and without ceremony, that the world is still the world, still loud, still shifting, still full of wind. Yet you are no longer so easily moved, not because the wind stopped, but because you finally learned where to stand. Where to stand is not a secret place, not a perfect condition, not a life without people. It is simply this: to stand on what is yours to keep, your conscience, your intentions, your daily choices, and to stop standing on what can never be stable, other people's interpretations, praise, blame, and passing weather. Then the sentence returns to what it always was: sound. The gust returns to what it always was: wind. And your life, your real life, happening now, returns to you.